A scream in West Cork. The murder of Sophie Toscan du Plantier. Part 3. The conclusion. Welcome back to Ontario Cold Cases, Canada's True Crime Podcast, and the final part of our World Cold Case Thursday series on the brutal murder of Sophie Toscan du Plantier in West Cork, Ireland. In Part 1, we learned of Sophie's life, her beloved West Cork retreat, and the horrific discovery of her body, followed by the challenging initial Garda investigation. In Part 2, we explored the critical early witness accounts and the perplexing emergence of local freelance journalist Ian Bailey, whose peculiar behavior, early knowledge of the crime, and suspicious injuries quickly made him the central figure of suspicion. Now, in this concluding episode, we delve into the intensifying focus on Ian Bailey, the crucial role, or absence, of forensic evidence, the contentious legal battles that unfolded across two countries, and the enduring questions that plague this nearly 3 decades old cold case. The interrogation, the evidence, and a long road to frustration. With suspicions rapidly mounting against Ian Bailey, the Gardaí shifted their strategy from general inquiries to a concentrated investigation into his activities and statements. Their objective was clear: to gather enough evidence to formally charge him with Sophie's murder. The first arrest and questioning, February 1997. On February 10, 1997, less than 2 months after Sophie's murder, Ian Bailey was arrested by an Garda Soshina at his home in Lissart, Shull, on suspicion of murder. His partner, Jules Thomas, was also arrested on suspicion of impeding the investigation. This was a significant development, sending ripples through the small community. During his interrogations at abandoned Garda station, Bailey steadfastly denied any involvement in Sophie's murder. He maintains explanations for the scratches and cuts on his body, attributing them to various tasks like cutting Christmas trees and plucking turkeys. He emphatically denied making any confessions to Billy Fuller or others, dismissing such claims as black humor, or him merely repeating local gossip that he was a suspect. A critical point of interrogation focused on his movements on the night of December 22nd into the morning of December 23rd. Bailey stated he had gone to bed early in the night of December 22nd. However, witness accounts placed him near the scene in the early hours of December 23rd. The Gardaí also collected items from Bailey's home and person for forensic analysis. This included clothing, samples from his body like fingernail clippings, and soil samples. The hope was to find DNA, blood, or fibers that could definitively link him to the crime scene or Sophie's body. Jules Thomas, during her questioning, initially provided an alibi for Bailey for the night of the murder, stating he was in bed with her. However, her account would later change, creating further complications regarding her credibility. She also provided samples to Gardaí. The forensic challenge: the absence of direct links. Despite the mounting circumstantial evidence, witness statements, and alleged admissions, the forensic evidence proved to be a major hurdle. The crime scene itself, as discussed in Part 1, was subject to significant issues due to its prolonged exposure and initial handling. DNA. No DNA belonging to Ian Bailey was ever found in Sophie's body or at the crime scene. Similarly, no DNA belonging to Sophie was found on Bailey's person or in his belongings. This absence of direct forensic linkage was a major blow to the prosecution's case. Blood. While Sophie's blood was found at the scene on the concrete block, slate, and gate, no trace of her blood was found on Bailey's clothing or personal items. Conversely, No blood from Bailey was identified at the scene. Fibers. Extensive fiber analysis was conducted on Sophie's clothing and on items from Bailey's home. Some common fibers, example, from generic clothing, were found. No unique or definitive fiber match was ever established that could place Bailey at the scene beyond reasonable doubt. Hair. Similarly, no hair samples were definitively linked to Bailey at the scene or to Sophie on Bailey. The prosecution's case would ultimately rely heavily on circumstantial evidence and witness testimony rather than direct forensic evidence, which would prove to be a significant weakness in future legal proceedings within Ireland. Up next, controversies and criticism of the Garda investigation. Controversies and criticism of the Garda investigation. From early in the investigation, the Gardaí faced significant criticism regarding their methods and the integrity of evidence handling, mishandling, and missing evidence. Perhaps one of the most persistent criticisms revolved around the alleged mishandling and disappearance of crucial evidence. Several items, most notably the bloodstained gate near Sophie's body, were reported to have gone missing or were disposed of while in Garda custody. While critics and the public pointed to this as a grave error, the Gardaí later denied that the gate had gone missing, stating it had been disposed of after analysis due to a perceived lack of significant evidentiary value, a decision that would draw considerable condemnation. Coercion and intimidation of witnesses. There were persistent allegations that Gardaí coerced and intimidated witnesses, including the prime suspect, Ian Bailey himself, to provide certain statements. Controversial witness Marie Farrell famously retracted her initial identification of Bailey, claiming she'd been pressured by Gardaí. These allegations cast a long shadow over the reliability of some early statements gathered by the police. Official reviews and findings. These criticisms led to formal reviews of the Garda investigation. Garda Shoshana Ombudsman Commission, or the GSOC report of 2018. Following years of public pressure and allegations, the Garda Shoshana Ombudsman Commission conducted an extensive review of the investigation's conduct. The report concluded that while there was evidence of a lack of administration and management in the investigation, there was no evidence of high-level corruption. However, the report did note the records of the Gardaí investigation had been altered and several pages removed, although the GSOC found this had taken place sometime after the initial investigation and was not necessarily linked to corruption at the highest levels. The Fennelly Commission, 2014, on ban of phone recordings. In 2014, a major scandal emerged when it was revealed that phone calls at Garda stations across Ireland had been secretly recorded. This led to claims that some recordings from abandoned Garda station relevant to the Toscan du Plantier investigation might contain evidence of irregularities. The Fennelly Commission was established to investigate these recordings. The Commission ultimately concluded that while there was evidence that Gardaí were prepared to contemplate altering or suppressing evidence that might have exonerated Bailey, there was no evidence that Gardaí had actually done so. However, it did find that Gardaí improperly disclosed confidential information about the investigations to journalists and other civilians, highlighting a serious breach of protocol. The Marie Farrell controversy. The inconsistencies in Marie Farrell's testimony would continue to plague the case. her multiple retractions and reaffirmations of her statements, at various points identifying Bailey, then recanting, then suggesting she was pressured to recant, meant that her evidence became extremely unreliable in any potential Irish trial. This was a significant blow to the prosecution, as her early citing was one of the strongest direct pieces of evidence placing a man resembling Bailey near the crime scene. The Irish legal landscape, repeated release, and civil battles. Despite the strong suspicions of the Garda, the Director of Public Prosecutions in Ireland consistently ruled that there was insufficient admissible evidence to bring a criminal prosecution against Ian Bailey. This decision was primarily based on the lack of direct forensic evidence and profound inconsistencies in key witness testimony, particularly that of Marie Farrell, which rendered it inadmissible in an Irish criminal court. This led to a frustrating cycle for both the Garda and Sophie's family. Bailey was arrested a second time in January 1998, again questioned, and again released without charge due to insufficient evidence. Bailey, for his part, became a vocal and aggressive opponent of the Garda investigation, asserting his innocence and claiming to be the victim of a malicious campaign to frame him. He embarked on a series of legal challenges. Defamation cases. He launched several defamation lawsuits against media organizations and individuals, seeking to clear his name. Wrongful arrest civil case. Most notably, in 2014, he took a civil case against the Garda commissioner in the state for wrongful arrest, seeking damages. This high-profile case, which lasted 64 days, saw many of the details of the investigation, the witness statements, and the allegations against Bailey aired publicly in an Irish court. While the jury found that he was not wrongfully arrested in 1997, they did find that his 1998 arrest was unlawful, awarding him some damages. However, the verdict was complex and did not definitively declare him innocent of the murder. The French investigation and conviction in absentia. While the Irish legal system struggled to find sufficient grounds for prosecution, the French authorities, spurred by Sophie's family, pursued the case under their own judicial system. Under French law, victims' families can initiate a separate judicial process, and cases can proceed largely on circumstantial evidence. Sophie's family, led by her uncle Jean-Pierre Gazot, and later her son Pierre-Louis Baudy-Vignon, tirelessly campaigned for justice in France. The French judicial system launched its own investigation, conducting interviews, reviewing the extensive Irish Garda files, and operating under a different legal framework. They issued a European arrest warrant for Ian Bailey in 2010, seeking his extradition to France to face charges. This request was vehemently opposed by Bailey and fought through the Irish courts. The Irish Supreme Court ultimately refused to extradite him in 2012, citing, among other reasons, that the alleged offense was not a crime in France at the time it was committed in Ireland, and that the warrant was for the purpose of interrogation rather than trial. A subsequent European arrest warrant was issued by France in 2016 on a new basis for a conviction following a trial. In May 2019, a French court in Paris tried Ian Bailey in absentia in his absence. He steadfastly refused to attend the trial, considering it a farce and arguing that he could not receive a fair trial without being present to defend himself. The French prosecution presented the extensive body of circumstantial evidence accumulated over the years, including the witness statements, the alleged confessions made to others, the highly suspicious injuries, and his unusual behavior after the murder. On May 31, 2019, a French court found Ian Bailey guilty of the premeditated murder of Sophie Toscan du Plantier and sentenced him to 25 years in prison. He also issued a new European arrest warrant for his immediate extradition. Despite this conviction in France, the Irish High Court again refused to extradite Bailey in October 2019, citing various legal reasons, including the passage of time since the alleged offense, the fact that a trial had already taken place without him, and a concern about potential breaches of his human rights if extradited for a trial that concluded without his participation. This decision effectively meant Ian Bailey could not be compelled to face justice in France while he remained in Ireland. Up next, recent developments in the enduring cold case. Recent developments in the enduring cold case. For nearly 3 decades, the murder of Sophie Toscan du Plantier has remained one of Ireland's most prominent cold cases. Sophie's family continues their relentless pursuit of justice, hoping for a breakthrough that would finally see a definitive conviction in Ireland and the full truth revealed. Ian Bailey, who consistently maintained his innocence, continued to live in West Cork defiantly. He was a well-known public figure, often speaking about the case to media, publishing poetry, and maintaining an online presence through Justice for Ian Bailey groups. His involvement in the case ended on January 21st, 2024, when he collapsed outside his residence in Bantry due to a suspected cardiac arrest and died at the age of 66. His death, while closing one significant chapter, means he can no longer be legally pursued for the crime. However, the case itself is not closed in Ireland. A Garda review in 2022 to present. In June 2022, there was reported that the Garda Serious Crime Review Team would conduct a full review of the murder case. This ongoing review signals that an Garda Síochána still considers the case active and potentially open to new evidence or approaches, even with Ian Bailey's passing. This offers a glimmer of hope for Sophie's family that a definitive conclusion may one day be reached within Ireland. The brutal act, the compelling circumstantial evidence, the shifting testimonies, the lack of definitive forensic links, the allegations of Garda mishandling, and the protracted legal quagmire between two nations leave a profound question mark over West Cork. Who truly silenced Sophie's scream on that cold December night? And with the full truth ever emerge from the shadows, giving peace to Sophie's memory and her tireless family? The murder of Sophie Toscan du Plantier stands as a stark reminder that even the most picturesque corners of the world, darkness can lurk. It is a testament to the complexities of justice when evidence is fleeting, memories are fallible, and legal systems clash. The case continues to haunt, a silent testament to a life cut short and a family's tireless quest for answers. Because every case deserves answers, and every victim deserves justice. Subscribe now to Ontario Cold Cases, Canada's true crime podcast. Episodes available wherever you get your podcasts.